Hey guys, Wyatt Claypool here. It's been a very good day rhetorically for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party. Since the federal election, you have to give them credit that they've been moving in the right direction when it comes to immigration. During the election, Poilievre and the Conservatives merely ran on reducing the cap the Liberals had on new permanent residents from around 395,000 per year down to 200 to 250,000 per year, which feels like a tepid improvement when in fact the problem is there are already too many people here and we need the cap so low that we have more people leaving than coming in. And right now, Poilievre's position is having net negative migration flow. But today he one upped himself in a fantastic way by saying he wants to see the temporary foreign worker program come to an end. And somehow, Prime Minister Mark Carney completely fumbled this issue, and he has now reiterated his support for the TFW program, which is quite possibly one of the least popular aspects of Canada's current immigration system. But we will be getting into the details in just a second. First off, I just want to remind you guys that if you like the channel, make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are not yet a subscriber, and help me get to 100,000 subscribers by mid-December of this year. And then also leave a comment on this video on what you currently think about the immigration debate. What limits do you think that should be put on the immigration system? If you think we need more, you can always leave your comment in the section below and have people probably argue with you. But that's your choice. And also, by the way, if you live in Calgary or you're around Alberta, consider going to the We Unify Reclaiming Conference being held at the BMO Center between the 19th and 21st. I will be there as a speaker, so check out the link below for that. But anyways, I want to start off with the video of Pierre Poilievre making his announcement on the TFW program. It is a 2.5 minute clip, but I don't perceive that I'm going to show the entire thing. I really want to jump over to Mark Carney trying to defend the TFW program. We have already seen in Abacus data the Conservatives lead the Liberals around 51% on this issue. When you ask people who is best positioned to handling the immigration issue, you will literally have like 65% of people select the Conservatives and like 15 say Liberal. It's absolutely insane how, even though the Liberals won the last election, a majority of Canadians, quite a large majority of Canadians, do point at Poilievre and the Conservatives and say, yeah, those guys would probably be better at, one of the biggest issues in the country. All the Liberals have, and they have it in shrinking fashion, is the issue of Donald Trump and the Americans because they're super anti-American, but that's proving not to be very effective in the long run. Anyways, but here is Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre making this announcement today.
And let's be honest, young people today form what I call Generation Screwed. Let's look at the situation for this generation. It is the first generation that cannot afford a home in Canadian history. And now, the double gut punch. They have the highest or the worst employment numbers of any group of young people since the late 1990s. So you can't get a job. And even if you did have a job, you can never buy a home after 10 years of Liberal government. The Liberals doubled housing costs. They unleash crime and chaos in our communities with their soft laws. They broke our immigration system by allowing too many, too fast, too easily to come into the country. And they have destroyed our economy by pushing investment out of our country. Now, Mark Carney promised that he would be different. He has been worse than Justin Trudeau in almost every objective measurement. Let's go through the promises. He promised to build, baby, build. Well, far from doubling home building as he promised, home building is expected to drop by 13%, according to his own housing agency.
But I just want to quickly pause it on this point because I know there are going to be some people out there arguing, well, he's only been prime minister for a little over 170 days. The problem with an excuse like that is that Carney was the economic advisor to Justin Trudeau, so he had influence over a lot of policy even before he became prime minister. And if he was truly going to make it easier to build in Canada, if he had already even made motions towards wanting to loosen regulations and get provinces to make it so that's easier to get a permit, I am not in favor of blanket rezoning. What we need is just permits faster, not permits being super slow, but if you do get one as a company, at least we'll let you build something super big in a neighborhood that doesn't want it. You can still have like proper zoning laws as well as be building a lot. But the thing is that Carney has not been able to gird up confidence in our housing market at all. And you even had the housing minister, whatever, something Gregor or whatever, former mayor of Vancouver. He already assured people, no, 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 we're not going to do anything that's going to lower the price of housing. It's like we're kind of at the point where you do need housing to be cheaper. Sorry, I don't care about the person who bought their house in 1992 and would like it to be worth 5 times more than they bought it for back then. You're not entitled to your house having a maintained like bubble value. You eventually do need to build enough homes so that people can live. But so yeah, that he's absolutely right there that if Carney actually did his job, actually started trying to deregulate, actually started trying to put pressure on the provinces to permit faster without destroying zoning laws, you could actually have already had projections raised drastically of builders wanting to get into the market right now because it's about to become super easy to build.
As for major national projects, 5 months in, and there's not a single national project that Mr. Carney has even identified, much less permitted, much less having shovels in the ground. Not one pipeline, not one mine, not one major expansion of a port. All we have is meetings, offices, new bureaucracies, new high-paid big shots with big salaries who have thus far achieved absolutely nothing. The time has come for decisive action to stop the Liberals from using our immigration system to pad the pockets of corporate elites and other insiders at the expense of Canadian jobs. Again, the principle is very simple. The principle is very simple. Canadian jobs for Canadian workers. Canada first, Canada always. That's why Conservatives are calling on the Carney government to permanently scrap the temporary foreign worker program and to stop issuing visas for any new temporary foreign workers coming into the country. Under this proposal, existing permit.
And what you can also do with that, and we don't maybe need to listen to the rest of it because it's just becoming the detail. They also need to absolutely review whoever put into place the LMIA program, the labor market impact assessment, because those have been thrown out like candy. You can get a designation that you need a temporary foreign worker because you can't find a Canadian in the most ridiculous of circumstances. I believe it was Jonathan Kay or Tristan Hoper the other day who showed that there were jobs being listed at $35 an hour, and yet somehow they couldn't actually find a Canadian to fill those jobs. It was like supervisor or manager jobs, in which that's a good income, $79,000 a year to be a fast food restaurant manager. You're going to find a Canadian who's willing to take 35 an hour. That's a pretty good salary. Not, not like, knocking people's socks off, but someone will accept that. But somehow they ended up getting a labor force impact assessment saying, oh, yes, you need someone from a different country. And then they bring in a worker who then has a subsidized wage in order to fill the job, despite us having very, very high unemployment right now, especially with younger men. But now we are going to move over to Mark Carney's response to all this, where he tries to justify the temporary foreign worker program. This was actually in the same press conference I highlighted earlier today in another video, where he got very perturbed at a journalist asking him about flip-flopping on the issue of Trump and the Americans.
Mr. Poilievre called this morning on the government to scrap the temporary foreign worker program. Is it time to shut the program down?
Well, I would say following, which is that that program has a.
We are back into the ums and ahs Carney. As soon as he doesn't know what he's going to say, the ums and ahs start parading out.
Role. It has to be focused in terms of its role. And it's part of what we're reviewing. It's part of what we will be discussing, how well the temporary foreign worker program is working and how our overall immigration system is working. We've been absolutely clear as a government that we want, and we're putting in place policies so that the overall level of immigration as a proportion of the population will decline from around 7% today to around 5% several years from now. Now, the biggest contributor to immigration is not temporary foreign workers. It's a variety of other factors.
But it is a major contributor to unemployment. And him saying, well, the TFWs are not actually the biggest problem when it comes to the actual rise in the population, because they are, technically they are temporary and many go back, although many do not go back. But it's like, well, it seems like you're now proving too much through your argument for the TFW program. Well, it's not that bad. It's not really adding that many people. Well, yeah, because other things also need to be heavily reduced, like the amount of new permanent residents, like the amount of students. Those also need to be slashed heavily. And so when he says like, oh, we'll have to review how well this program is working, everyone knows the program is not working. That's what always signals to me that Carney is really not going to reverse a lot of orthodox liberal dogma policies while he's at the prime minister, because if he wanted to, he could have already done it. In fact, I would be sitting here praising him right now if he got rid of the TFW program or slashed immigration by like 80%. I'd be like, you know what? Maybe he's a liberal I can at least approve of sometimes. At least he's actually somewhat doing a good job in certain areas. Hasn't touched any of them. He could be popular if he wanted, but there's something inside him that truly believes these things, that, it would be evil to reduce immigration. That would be somehow like not liberal of him to do. I'm not sure if I have this statement saved, but I want to find a tweet I had earlier where somebody was saying that like, oh, no, it was about Danielle Smith opposing the TFW program and just the level of immigration in general, because Alberta's been taking on so much. And she was talking about it in her Calgary Next panels in these different town halls around the province. And there was this person interviewed by CTV News, and they're like, well, I don't like when we start talking about there being too many immigrants, because it feels like we're scapegoating people for, like, we're scapegoating immigrants as the problem. It's like, well, no one's looking at like, it's that guy right over there and like, get him. But nobody's doing that. We're saying the number that we are bringing in is not helpful to the country. There are too many people. There are too few houses. There are too few available jobs. And so we don't really want people from other countries moving in mass, especially when we have not had a very good record of assimilation. We very much have a lot of enclaves around Canada. That's why Surrey, that's why Brampton, that's why Abbotsford. You end up with basically them becoming enclaves specifically for South Asian or Pakistani or Muslim Canadians. It's not good for the country to have these areas where suddenly you go in and it's just 70% people from a very specific region of the world who have only been here for a generation or two, because then you end up getting cultural gaps all over the country, whereby crossing the street, you're basically not in Canada anymore, because those people don't really know what Canada even is. They moved into a neighborhood where everyone came from generally the region they were from, and so they've never really cared about certain values that are in our charter and our Bill of Rights. But anyways, getting back to the Carney clip, I'll let him keep fumbling around here.
And I will say, je vais répéter en français parce que c'est important. When I talk to businesses around the country, particularly in Quebec, but elsewhere across the country, their number one issue is tariffs, and their number two issue is access to temporary foreign workers. Okay.
Oh yes, of course. That's the two big things for people. They just want more of them. What was that?
Number two issue is when I talk to businesses around the country, particularly in Quebec, but elsewhere across the country, their number one issue is tariffs, and their number two issue is access to temporary foreign workers.
He's lying. He's either lying or business owners are so whipped at this point that they don't even say, can you lower my taxes? Can you lower regulations? Can you make it easier for me to pay employees? Instead, maybe there are some business owners who know the answer is no. And so their only way of actually becoming more profitable in any way is asking the government, can you give me more subsidized workers? But that will eventually run out. And I am actually disappointed in the business community for putting up with stuff like this. Just ask for a tax cut. Say, if you do not give me a tax cut, I and all my friends will vote Conservative, because I actually want to run my own business the way I want to, rather than begging so that I get subsidized employees just so I can make it to the end of the year. It's one of those big kind of blind spots in Canadian politics. We just certain, not we, but people who vote Liberal, just let them get away with the idea that they're standing up for the Canadian economy when they won't even cut taxes. Oh, but they are bringing in a middle class tax cut, 1% off the rate of taxes for people making under $50,000 a year. I know that applies to everyone's income under 50,000, but for most people, big whoop, that doesn't even abstractly make their lives much better at all. But the thing is, like, why, if you truly care about Canada, why not make it easier to do business in Canada than it is to do business in the United States?
OK? Et pour le moment, c'est une des grandes demandes du gouvernement du Québec et c'est une des grandes demandes des entreprises. Alors, mais pour améliorer overall, as a whole, it's clear that we can improve our overall immigration policies. We're working on that, and we're setting clear goals to adjust.
So thank you for Rebel News for clipping that today. I've been using a few of their clips today, but my goodness, he could have just said, okay, I do see that people have a lot of problems with the TFW program and with the LMIA reports. How about we, we're going to probably ratchet back. If he just said that, it would be like, oh my goodness, at least he listens. He was like, well, we'll review it. And then the only thing he said about the program is, Quebec business owners love it. And considering how much the Liberals rely on Quebec for seats, if that's truly something he's heard, which I don't even exactly believe, at least I believe he thinks that that's what people think, that he is not going to back off this at all, because when pressed on TFW programs, the only thing he could talk about was how much certain people he's talked to really like it. So it's not going to change. Anyways, so with that being said, that should be it for me today, guys. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and then sign up for that We Unify Reclaiming event if you're in the Calgary area on September 19th to the 21st. Again, I'm a speaker there, and even on the days when I'm not speaking, I will be there mulling about, talking with people, whatnot. If you want to swing by and say hi, tickets are linked in the description below. It should have like legitimately dozens and dozens of creators. So if you don't like me, but for some reason you made it to the end of this video, there will be people that you probably do like there. Anyways, with that being said, see you guys all later.